Dr. Jung put forward a new concept that he called synchronicity. This term means a meaningful coincidence of outer and inner events that are not themselves causally connected. The emphasis lies on the word meaningful. If an aircraft crashes before my eyes as I am blowing my nose, this is a coincidence of events that has no meaning. It is simply a chance occurrence of a kind that happens all the time. But if I bought a blue frock and by mistake the shop delivered a black one on the day one of my near relatives died, this would be a meaningful coincidence. The two events are not causally related, but they are connected by the symbolic meaning that our society gives.
Favorite words that was invented by a man who was a great teacher of mine. His name was Carl Jung. He called it synchronicity. And it's a term that reflects sort of a place where you can get to in your life where you can have a collaboration with fate almost, where you can begin to see things showing up into your life just because you were thinking them. And for some of us who are very practical-minded, we think, well, that's absolutely impossible. All of these things are just coincidences. But the word coincidence is an interesting word. In mathematics, coincidence refers to angles that coincide. And in mathematics, two angles that coincide are said to be two angles that fit together perfectly. And we have taken a term that means things that fit together perfectly and assume that somehow it's all done accidentally. But in the universe in which there is an intelligence guiding everything, there are no accidents. One of my
Another school of thought, and that goes back literally 2,500 years to the time of Buddha, says that nothing is random. That what we call accident or random is actually a synchronistic, interdependent co-arising of events and relationships since the beginning of time. And that this is the nature of consciousness. That consciousness has the ability to synchronistically, interdependently give rise to an infinity of space-time events. And what we call random or accident is because with bits and pieces of our sensory experience, we cannot comprehend the whole. That's why Buddha makes a very strong distinction between what is perception and what is seeing.
The way in which, perhaps by sharing our experiences, we can begin to satisfy ourselves that the domain we journey to and from is not merely mental. And the way in which we confirm for ourselves that it is not merely mental is in the observation of disturbances in this world that we call coincidental or synchronistic or something like that. Now this is elusive, anecdotal kind of stuff, but nevertheless there's enough of it.
Jung defines it as an acausal principle of manifestation that is not a random coincidence, but that is part of the coherence of the divine mind as it is reflected in the phenomenal plane. And therefore, if two or more events appear contiguous in time and space, they have a symbolic significance as well as any significance they might have on the plane of cause and effect, or on some lesser egoic agenda. And when one understands how the mind of God is operating through the phenomenal puzzle of reality that is filled with clues as to where to find the portal to transcendence, there can be an immediate satori, or an aha experience, when you grok the nature of what is being expressed through these synchronistic events that are pointing toward a higher meaning, or a higher presence, or a level of consciousness within you that transcends the normal level, that through the power of wonderment and astonishment opens up the realm of the miraculous.
And I sent an email out to everyone this morning saying that there's a documentary being made on synchronicity, and if you have an interesting story to tell, let me know. So I get an email back from Robert.
I couldn't resist emailing Dean back and saying, you know, a funny thing. I was up on my favorite, one of my favorite bluffs. There's a beautiful oak tree and a bench you can sit and look down over this majestic valley. I was there actually very early watching Venus rise, doing a meditation on synchronicity. I was meditating on that state. And one of the things I thought about was there should be a good movie on synchronicity. So imagine my surprise when I got to my office this morning and my colleague Dean Radin had sent an email around to all of us saying that you would be here today filming.
We assume, we hope that there's a way that we can figure out where does that correlation come from? What causes the things to occur? Because otherwise we have no explanation at all.
Wow.
People have forgotten, I call it the world behind the world, or the unseen. Humans are actually suspended between the two worlds.
We know now, or at least we suspect, that we only actually understand 4% of the universe.
Newtonian physics, which is incredibly powerful, concentrates on causality. And then suddenly that you were getting down to these really small areas where causality seemed to be breaking down, and you were having to deal with acausality. Well, this is exactly the same phenomena that Jung was investigating within the private world of the psyche.
We're experiencing phenomena that we don't have the mental apparatus yet to understand.
Synchronicity is kind of not out there, like under a rock. I always have to sort of turn it around and say, what did the event mean to you? How was it meaningful to you?
We'd like to get a sense of the synchronicity occurred. Well, what exactly does that mean? How do we explain that? You know what? Everybody's talking about this, but only in private and not in public.